Paul Maynard.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to pass comment upon the opposition's continued attempts to retain child trust funds. I'm struck in particular by the nature of their opposition. Rather than seeking to concentrate on the effectiveness or otherwise of them as savings vehicles, they appear to reduce their arguments to one of a generic usefulness. In particular, there seems to now be a growing objection to abolishing child trust funds because somehow they have inadequate confidence in the junior ISAs or child ISAs that are due to replace them. I think that's particularly concerning. If I might just remind those members who were on the Public Bill Committee with me and tell those who weren't that there was a quote from the Director General of the Building Societies Association, Mr. Adrian Coles, who said, "Let us not pretend that we need to rely on the government or the public sector to do all of this. The 49 building societies and other mutuals offer about 100 children's savings accounts in the free market, which have been pretty successful over the years." And I know during the Public Bill Committee, concerns were sort of hedged about that just possibly the profile of customers who take out ISAs might be the more affluent or the more elderly. It was made quite clear at the time that there were 12 million people on incomes under £20,000 who have ISAs, that 40% of them were under the age of 44, compared to just 20% who were over the age of 64. So any concerns that somehow younger families are not sharing in ISAs is simply not true. And I was particularly concerned when I heard continued doubts about the ability of families on lower incomes to actually cope with the financial complexity of an ISA. I actually believe we do need to trust people. An awful amount of work is going into financial education, an increasing amount. It's a trend that the last government initiated. I congratulate them for that, and we are building on it. So I do think that we can have confidence in ISAs as a potential future vehicle. Another reason for opposing the abolition of the Child Trust Fund was the potential impact it could have on the needs of families with disabled children. I was particularly shocked by one of the statements by the Shadow Minister, the member for Dallin, when he said that, quote, and I quote from column 2 to 8 of the committee, that the proposal for providing 8,000 week-long respite breaks each year for disabled children in England trivialises the nature of the trust fund. I found that quite a disquieting comment, I have to say, because I don't regard respite breaks for children as being trivial in any way, shape or form. Would you like to give way?
I'm grateful to the Honourable Gentleman for giving way. There are 2 points on those particular discussions in committee that he's aware of. First of all, the abolition of the Child Trust Fund takes away a resource which is applicable in Scotland, Northern Ireland, England and Wales, and replaces it with a provision that is only available in England. And secondly, provision for respite care is entirely different to building a capital asset for individuals at the age of 18. And that was the objective that the revised proposals from the Minister are bringing forward.
I thank you for that effort to bring clarity. Nonetheless, I still regret the use of the word trivialise, if only because I know from speaking to the many families in my constituency with disabled children. I was speaking with one family just a fortnight ago who had benefited from the family fund, that had their first holiday in 5 years, and she broke down in tears in front of me. And I raised this not to have a go at the Shadow Minister, but rather to raise the point that one of the wider issues with regard to the Child Trust Fund that was illuminated in committee was the difference between the accessibility of an asset that is locked away until age 18 and the changing needs of families with disabled children, and indeed looked after children for that matter. If we are seeking to target the Child Trust Funds at those in the community who are the most vulnerable, who have the most chaotic lives, who have the most pressures, where things unexpected occur to them, is it truly sensible to actually try to tie them in to something which can only be delivered at the age of 18 and give way to the Honourable Lady?
I wonder if the Honourable Gentleman would agree that it should not be an either-or. We should be able to give day-to-day help and support to the most vulnerable at the same time as allowing people, for example, looked after children and indeed people who have disabled children to build that capital asset which will be there for them when they enter adulthood.
I agree entirely, and I wish during the evidence taking in our Public Bill Committee in the debate that we had had an either-or discussion rather than an and then another idea yet again discussion. We had far too many shopping lists and not enough recognition that hard choices actually had to be made. I think it is important to recognise, as Mark Bush did from Scope when he was giving evidence to us, that delivering an asset at age 18 is not the solution to the problems faced by families engaging in the transition of their child from childhood to adulthood when faced with a complex disability. That starts at age 14 and can move on to age 30. And I know the Honourable Member for Stratford and Urmston recognised that when I intervened on it, and that I thought was a useful move forward, that when we are discussing the future of child ISAs, I do hope it is taken into account the fact that there will be families who are particularly vulnerable who will need access potentially before the age of 18, and locking it away until age 18 is not always the best solution, and will give way for the last time.
I'm grateful to the Honourable Gentleman, and he is absolutely right that if the junior ISA can offer that flexibility to disabled children, that would be a useful enhancement, and I look forward to hearing the Minister on that in his response. But would the Honourable Gentleman not also accept that one of the other advantages of the Child Trust Fund that we would welcome seeing, he and I would welcome seeing translated into the junior ISA, was the fact that it delivered extra money to more vulnerable children because of the double payments that were available, for example, to children from low-income households or with disabilities.
I thank you for that intervention. It was one of the joys of this particular bill that I have learnt so much more about progressive universalism from the Honourable Lady, and she's quite right that the progressive element is being removed. However, what has struck me during this entire process has been as though I have somehow been locked away on Moonbase Alpha for the past fortnight of my life. There doesn't seem to be any recognition at all from the benches opposite that we're actually operating in a much more stringent financial climate. The Honourable Member for Wirral South, who is no longer in her place, dismissively said at one moment in the committee that, oh, I recognise there has been a debate about the deficit and all that sort of thing, in a very dismissive way. And I felt that that was quite regrettable, I have to say. We are operating in a situation where we have to make financial savings, and rather than having a discussion about whether the Child Trust Fund is the most appropriate use of public money, what we have had is a continual debate about why we should do this, and this, and this, and then something else, and then something else again. At no point did we have that crux discussion: is this the best use of public money to help those most in need in our society? I welcome the fact that the Minister is having discussions with the Honourable Member for Wythenshawe and Sale East. I hope something does come of that. But I am concerned once again that the opposition's determination to try to save child trust funds is based upon an outdated notion that only those savings vehicles provided by the state can somehow provide a solution. That is not the case.
Yvonne Farge.
Thank you, Madam Deputy.